I don't know who you think you are, but this ends today. David Anderson sneered, standing at the front of the sleek boardroom, the sound of his words echoing against the cold marble floors. The room fell silent, every eye on Maya Williams, the only person in the room who wasn't dressed in a suit. The billionaire CEO, surrounded by his high-powered team, looked down at the black cleaning lady, wiping the dust off the window. "You don't belong here," he said with a smirk. Maya, head bowed as she polished the glass, didn't flinch. Her hands moved with precision, her silence speaking volumes. "Isn't it funny how someone like you, a mere cleaning lady, thinks she knows anything about business?" he continued, his voice dripping with disdain. A quiet, uncomfortable chuckle rippled through the room, but Maya's expression remained unshaken. She'd heard worse, much worse. But today was different. Today, she wasn't going to let it slide. She straightened up, the microfiber cloth still in her hand, and turned to face him. The silence in the room thickened, tension building like a storm. "I know exactly what's going on here, Mr. Anderson," she said, her voice steady, calm, yet powerful. The CEO froze, his arrogance faltering for the briefest of moments. "You don't know what you're talking about," David spat, his confident demeanor cracking just a little. "I know exactly what you've been hiding. Your little fraud scheme? It's about to blow up in your face," Maya replied, her eyes locking with his. The room went dead silent. No one moved. David blinked, his smirk faltering, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. His mind raced, trying to process the words that just escaped her mouth. How could she know? No one knew. No one had caught on to his plan. The deal he was about to sign would make him richer than ever, but it came with a dirty little secret, one he thought no one would ever uncover. He took a step closer, narrowing his eyes. "You're crazy," he growled. "Just a cleaning lady. What could you possibly know about this?" Maya's calm demeanor didn't waver. "I may be cleaning your office, but I'm also cleaning up your mess," she said softly. "And I'm going to make sure the truth comes out." David's face turned white, a cold sweat beginning to form on his brow. He had never been challenged like this, not in all his years of power and privilege. His mind screamed for him to dismiss her, to make her disappear, but something about the way she stood there, unafraid, unwavering, made him pause. He took a deep breath, trying to regain control of the situation. "Get out," he barked, gesturing to the door. "I don't need to hear any more of your delusional nonsense." But Maya didn't move. She didn't back down. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice quieter now, but still full of strength. "The truth always comes out." David watched as she turned and walked out of the room, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence. He stood there, rooted to the spot, his mind racing. What had just happened? How had she known? And more importantly, what would happen when the truth finally came to light? Maya walked out of the boardroom, her steps steady, but inside, her heart was racing. The moment she stepped into the elevator, she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She had said it. She had stood up to David Anderson, the man who thought he could hide his fraudulent schemes behind his shiny office and his expensive suit. But something in her had snapped. She couldn't ignore it anymore. She had known about the fraudulent deal for weeks, ever since she had found the files in the storage room. No one had noticed her, the cleaning lady, but she had been watching. She had been paying attention. The elevator doors closed, and she was alone with her thoughts. Outside, the bustling city continued as usual, but inside the walls of the building, a storm was brewing. The next day, David walked into the office like any other day, but something was different. He couldn't shake the feeling that Maya's words were still echoing in his mind. How could she have known? He had carefully covered his tracks. He had made sure no one could connect the dots. His mind raced as he sat down at his desk, but the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. As he picked up his coffee cup, a message popped up on his phone, a reminder of his upcoming meeting. He tried to focus, but the unease lingered. Maya had caught him off guard. He could still see her face, calm and unflinching, as she spoke the words he never thought anyone would say to him. That night, as David lay in bed, the weight of the situation settled on him. His fraud scheme was dangerous. It wasn't just a small misstep, it was a ticking time bomb, and Maya, of all people, had found it. What if she was right? What if the whole thing came crashing down? The next morning, David couldn't concentrate. Every little noise in the office made him jump. Every glance from his employees felt like judgment. He had always been in control, always the one calling the shots. But now, it felt like everything was slipping through his fingers. He had to fix this. He had to make sure Maya was silenced before she could do any more damage. But how? David knew he couldn't just fire her. That would only make things worse. He had to be smart about this. As he sat in his office, thinking of his next move, Maya walked in. She was carrying a folder in her hands, her expression unreadable. She placed it on his desk. "You should look at this," she said, her voice calm. David stared at the folder, his stomach tightening. "What was this?" "What is it?" he asked, though he already knew. "Proof," Maya said simply. She met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. "You're not the only one who knows how to play the game." David's heart skipped a beat. He opened the folder and started scanning the papers. His worst fear was confirmed. She had found everything. Every detail, every transaction. He tried to keep his composure, but the truth hit him like a freight train. Maya had not only uncovered his fraud, but she had also gathered irrefutable evidence. "How did you?" David started, but he couldn't finish. Maya smiled, a knowing smile that sent a chill down his spine. "You're not the first person to think they can get away with it," she said. "But you are the first to underestimate me." David could feel the walls closing in on him. His empire, everything he had worked for, was at risk. And it was all because of one woman, one cleaning lady, who saw through his lies and had the guts to stand up to him. He knew that whatever happened next, his life was about to change forever. Maya sat quietly in the coffee shop, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. The sun was setting outside, casting a soft glow over the city. She had expected her life to be different by now, not like this. She hadn't planned on bringing down a CEO, but there was no turning back now. The truth was out, and there was no escaping the consequences. A notification pinged on her phone. It was a message from an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. "We need to talk," the message read. Maya's stomach tightened. She knew who it was. David Anderson. She had expected this. The message was simple, almost too simple. What did he want now? Did he plan to beg for mercy? Or was he still planning to shut her down? She glanced at the time. It was getting late. She shouldn't be surprised, but part of her still was. She had grown up being ignored, dismissed, and underestimated. But now, everything had changed. She had power, real power. But power came with its own set of dangers. She had been careful. She had always kept her head down, doing her job, staying out of the spotlight. But that had changed the moment she found the files. She had exposed David's fraud, and now she was in the center of it all. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but one thing was clear. Her life would never be the same. The phone buzzed again, pulling her from her thoughts. Another message. This one was longer. "I know you think you've won, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. I'll make sure you regret this." "I'm not finished." Maya read the words carefully, her heart pounding in her chest. Regret? She had no regrets. She had done what was right. But she also knew this was far from over. She had expected him to fight back, but she hadn't expected him to threaten her. She leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath. She had a decision to make. Would she back down? Would she let him intimidate her into silence? Or would she stand her ground, no matter what the cost? The answer was clear. She wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not after everything she had done. She had nothing to lose anymore. The next morning, Maya walked into the office as usual, her heart steady, her head held high. She passed by the security desk, nodded to the receptionist, and made her way to the janitor's closet. Her job was the same, but everything had changed. She opened the door to the closet, breathing in the familiar scent of cleaning supplies. The fluorescent lights flickered above her, casting a cold, sterile glow. It felt almost surreal, knowing what was about to unfold. But Maya was ready. She was no longer the invisible woman in the background. She was a force to be reckoned with. She took a deep breath and got to work, her mind focused on what was coming next. David wouldn't expect it. He thought he had everything under control, but he had underestimated her. She had a plan. And this time, it wasn't about cleaning up messes. It was about taking back control. Maya arrived early the next morning, the office still quiet as the sun slowly crept over the skyline. She had a meeting with the higher-ups, a meeting she never expected to be a part of, but she wasn't nervous. No, she was calm, confident, ready to finally take the next step. The past few days had been a whirlwind. After exposing the fraud, Maya knew she had made enemies. But she was no longer the quiet cleaning lady who did her job and stayed invisible. She was a player now, and David Anderson had no idea what he had started. As she passed by the receptionist, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass doors. A familiar face, but there was something different about her now. She wasn't just walking through the office. She was walking through it as someone who owned it. She took the elevator up to the top floor, where the executive offices were located. It was a world of glass and steel, where power and influence seemed to hang in the air like the expensive fragrance of the perfume the CEO wore. Maya stepped off the elevator, her heart steady, her posture proud. She was about to meet with the same people who had once looked down on her, the ones who had ignored her existence until it was too late. The door to the conference room opened, and she walked in. Every eye in the room turned to her. She was the last person they expected to see here. They all thought she would be gone by now, but Maya had no intention of leaving. "We need to discuss the fraud," Maya said, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. She had their attention now. The room fell silent. David Anderson sat at the head of the table, his face tight with a mix of frustration and disbelief. He didn't know how to react. He had tried to ignore her, but Maya's presence was impossible to ignore now. He had made a huge mistake, and it was catching up to him. "You have no place here," David muttered, trying to regain his composure. "I have every place here," Maya replied, her voice firm. "I have the evidence. You can't hide it anymore." She placed a stack of papers on the table, the very papers that would expose his scheme. The silence in the room deepened as they all looked at the evidence in front of them. The weight of the truth was undeniable. "What do you think you're going to do, Maya?" David asked, his voice low, trying to intimidate her. "I'm not going to do anything," she said calmly. "But these papers? They're going to do everything." David's hands clenched into fists, his mind racing. This wasn't how he had planned things. He had always been the one in control. He had never imagined that someone like Maya, someone he had so carelessly dismissed, would be the one to bring him down. Maya stood tall, watching him. She could see the fear in his eyes, and it felt satisfying, but she wasn't here for satisfaction. She was here for justice. The room was thick with tension, and it was clear that David had lost. Maya had won. "This is just the beginning, Mr. Anderson," Maya said, her voice steady. "The truth always comes out. It doesn't matter how much you try to bury it." As she turned to leave, she knew that she had done more than expose a fraudulent scheme. She had proved that even the most powerful people could fall when they underestimated the strength of someone who had nothing to lose. She was no longer invisible. She was in control, and she was just getting started. Maya walked out of the conference room, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. She had done it. She had exposed David Anderson's fraud, and now the company was going to face the consequences. But it wasn't just about the company. It was about more than that. It was about showing the world that people like her, people who had been pushed to the sidelines, could make a difference. She had never felt more powerful, yet she knew the fight wasn't over. As she walked through the hallways, she could feel the eyes on her. Some were filled with admiration, others with disbelief. They had all underestimated her, just like David had. But that was the past. The future was hers to shape. David's empire was crumbling, and it wasn't just the financial collapse that haunted him. It was the truth. The truth about his actions, about the lies he had built his career on, and about how one woman had brought it all down. Maya could hear the murmurs of the employees as she passed. Some whispered about her courage, some speculated about her next move, but no one dared to challenge her now. She had the power, and they all knew it. Maya didn't stop to listen to the gossip. She had a meeting to attend, one that could change everything. She entered the small, modest conference room on the second floor, a sharp contrast to the lavish offices upstairs. The table was already set with coffee and files, but no one else was there yet. Maya took a seat at the far end, her mind racing. She had never been a part of anything like this before. This wasn't just a job anymore. This was her chance to rewrite her story, to show the world that someone like her could stand up and be heard. Soon, the door opened, and a group of people walked in. The CEO's top advisors, the lawyers, and a few key board members. They all looked at her with a mixture of surprise and respect. The room grew quiet as they took their seats. David wasn't there. Maya wasn't sure if he would ever show his face again. His world had been shattered, and he knew he couldn't escape the truth. "Maya," one of the board members began, his voice cautious but respectful, You've done something we never expected. You've exposed something none of us saw." Maya nodded, her expression calm. "It wasn't just me," she said, her voice steady. "It's the truth. And truth always finds its way out." The others exchanged glances, their eyes wide with realization. They had always been so focused on the profits, the power, and the status that they never thought about what they were allowing to happen behind closed doors. "So what now?" another board member asked. Maya took a deep breath. "We rebuild. We make things right. We don't just recover from this. We do better. We set a new standard." The room was silent for a moment, everyone digesting her words. The weight of her decision was sinking in. They were all going to have to make changes, and it wasn't going to be easy. But for the first time, Maya felt that she was part of something important, something that mattered. As the meeting continued, she spoke with authority, guiding the conversation toward transparency, accountability, and a new direction for the company. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but it was the road she had chosen. She wasn't going to be silenced again. Maya had done more than bring down a corrupt CEO. She had set the foundation for a new beginning, one where people like her, people who had been invisible, could rise to the top. And she was just getting started. Maya sat in the boardroom, the silence thick with anticipation. She had just presented her vision for the company's future, one built on transparency, accountability, and integrity. The faces around the table were a mix of awe and skepticism. This wasn't just a business meeting anymore. It felt like a turning point in her life, a moment she had worked towards without even realizing it. Her heart was steady as she spoke, knowing that she was no longer the quiet, invisible cleaning lady she had once been. She was now an integral part of this company's new chapter. The tension in the room was palpable, but Maya remained calm. David Anderson was no longer here, and the power had shifted. It was her time now. The board members exchanged glances, their previous uncertainty fading as they listened to her words. "Maya," one of the senior executives said, breaking the silence, "you've already done more than we expected. The changes you've proposed are, well, they're bold, but they could work." She nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "It's not about being bold," Maya said, her voice calm but firm. "It's about doing what's right. The company has been built on lies, and it's time to change that. We're going to rebuild, but we do it the right way, no shortcuts." Another board member spoke up. "But what about the damage this has caused? The investors? The reputation?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Damage can be repaired. Trust is something we earn back, step by step. We'll show the world that we're not just another corrupt company. We'll prove that we can be better." The room fell silent again. Maya knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Rebuilding trust, especially after what had happened, would take time. But it was a challenge she was ready for. She had faced worse. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Maya worked tirelessly, meeting with employees, stakeholders, and partners to make sure the changes were being implemented. She was no longer just cleaning the floors. She was making decisions, leading conversations, and taking charge of the company's future. The once cold and distant halls of the office now felt like her domain, and she was determined to prove that she belonged here. As the days passed, Maya began to notice the shift. The employees, once quiet and hesitant around her, now came to her with ideas, with questions, with respect. It wasn't just about her ideas anymore. It was about their collective vision for the future. She had become a leader, someone they could trust. But Maya knew it wasn't just about her newfound position. It was about something bigger. It was about showing everyone who had ever been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated that they, too, could rise. She had done it. She had proven that one person, no matter where they started, could change everything. One morning, as Maya walked into the office, she received a call from an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Maya Williams?" the voice on the other end asked. "This is Mr. Bennett. I represent a group of investors who have been watching the changes in your company. We're interested in discussing a potential partnership." Maya smiled, a feeling of satisfaction washing over her. She had done more than survive. She had thrived. The door to a new chapter was open, and Maya was walking through it, ready to lead the way. Maya sat in her new office, the soft hum of the city outside the windows as she reviewed the latest reports. The company was starting to find its footing again, the changes she had set into motion slowly taking root. She had walked into this space as a cleaning lady just a few months ago, And now, she was making decisions that would shape the company's future. The thought still amazed her, but she had worked hard for this, and she wasn't going to let anything stop her now. Her phone buzzed, breaking her concentration. It was a message from Mr. Bennett, the investor she had spoken with last week. She opened the message and read, "We're ready to move forward. Let's meet tomorrow." Maya smiled. This was it. The opportunity she had worked for was finally here. She had no intention of wasting it. The next day, she sat across from Mr. Bennett in a sleek, modern office overlooking the city skyline. He looked at her with an approving gaze, his suit crisp and polished, but there was something different about the way he looked at her now. He saw the leader in her, not the woman who had once been invisible. "Maya, we've been following your progress," Mr. Bennett said, leaning forward in his chair. "What you've done with this company is nothing short of impressive. We believe in what you're building here, and we want to be a part of it." Maya nodded, her confidence unwavering. "I appreciate that, Mr. Bennett," she replied. "But it's not just about me. It's about the people who believed in this vision, the ones who trusted that things could be different. We're creating something that's bigger than any one person. We're creating a culture that values integrity, honesty, and the power of doing the right thing." Mr. Bennett raised an eyebrow. "I like what I'm hearing," he said. "This partnership could be the key to taking your company to the next level. But there's one thing we need to be clear about. We're in this for the long haul. We want to build something that lasts." Maya smiled. She had known that was coming. "I'm in this for the long haul too," she said. "And I'll make sure this company stays true to its values." "That's a promise." Over the next few weeks, Maya worked closely with the investors, carefully crafting a strategy for growth that would expand the company while staying true to the ethical foundation she had built. The changes were not easy, but they were necessary. And as the company began to grow, so did Maya's influence. She wasn't just a part of the company anymore. She was its driving force. One afternoon, as Maya was leaving the office, she ran into one of the employees who had once whispered about her behind her back. He stopped in his tracks, his face full of awe. "Maya," he said, his voice full of respect, "I just wanted to say, you've changed everything. You're the reason we're still here. You've made this place what it should have always been." Maya smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "It wasn't just me," she said. "It's all of us. Together, we're making this company stronger than ever. And we're going to keep doing that, no matter what." As she walked out of the building, the sun setting behind her, Maya felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. She had started this journey as someone overlooked and underestimated, but now, she was leading with purpose and vision. She had proven that anyone, no matter where they started, could rise to the top. And this was just the beginning. Maya sat in her office, staring out of the window as the city lights flickered below. It had been a few months since the new investors had come on board, and the company was thriving. The changes she had implemented were beginning to show real results. People were starting to trust the company again, and it felt like everything was moving in the right direction. The phone buzzed on her desk, interrupting her thoughts. It was an email from one of the investors, Mr. Bennett. She opened it, her eyes scanning the words. "We have another opportunity for you. This could take your company to new heights." Maya's heart skipped a beat. Another opportunity? She knew this could be the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to grow the company even further. She typed a quick response and set up a meeting for the next day. The next morning, Maya sat across from Mr. Bennett and a few of his associates. They looked at her with the same respect they had when they first met. "Maya, we've been really impressed with how you've handled the company," Mr. Bennett said. "And now, we're ready to offer you something bigger." Maya listened intently as they outlined their proposal. They wanted to help her expand the company into new markets, to take it global. The investment they were offering would provide the resources to make it happen. Maya thought about it for a moment. She had always wanted to grow the company, to make a real difference in the world. This was her chance. But it wasn't just about business. It was about proving that someone like her could do it. "I'm in," Maya said, her voice confident. "Let's do it." Over the next few months, Maya worked closely with the investors to expand the company's reach. It wasn't easy. There were new challenges, new risks, but Maya was prepared. She knew that nothing worth having came without hard work. As the company grew, so did her role. She wasn't just the CEO, she was a leader in the industry. People began to look to her for inspiration. They saw her as someone who had come from nothing and made something of herself. It wasn't just about the money or the success. It was about the impact. Maya was making a difference, and that was what mattered. One evening, as Maya walked through the office, she stopped at the window, looking out at the skyline. It had been a long journey, but she had made it. She had proven to herself and to everyone else that she was capable of anything. And as she looked at the city below, she knew that this was just the beginning. There was still so much more to do, so many more people to help, so many more dreams to chase. Maya smiled, feeling the weight of her success settle in. She had built something real, something that would last, and she was ready to take on whatever came next. Maya sat in her new office, looking at the skyline through the glass walls. The city stretched out before her, a sprawling testament to all the possibilities that lay ahead. Her company had expanded into new markets, and her leadership had become a beacon for others who had once felt invisible, just like she had. It was amazing to think how far she had come, from the cleaning lady at the bottom of the corporate ladder to the CEO of a successful, thriving company. But the journey wasn't over. There was always more to do, always more challenges to overcome. Maya had learned that growth came with its own set of obstacles, but she was ready for them. She wasn't just building a company, she was building a legacy. The door to her office opened, and her assistant, Daniel, stepped in with a folder in hand. "Maya, the board members are here for your next meeting," he said. She nodded, standing up and smoothing down her suit. It had taken years of hard work to get to this point, but she had earned it. The boardroom was filled with the familiar faces of the people who had helped her build the company. They respected her now, but that respect hadn't come easily. She had proven herself time and time again, and now they looked to her for guidance. The conversation turned to future plans and strategies. They discussed new product launches, market expansion, and ways to maintain the company's reputation as one of integrity and transparency. Maya listened intently, offering ideas and insights when needed. As the meeting continued, Maya's mind began to wander, not because she wasn't engaged, but because she was reflecting on just how much had changed. Just a year ago, she had been cleaning the floors in this building, invisible to everyone. Now, she was leading it. The meeting wrapped up, and the board members filed out, leaving Maya alone in her office once again. She sat back down at her desk and looked at the papers in front of her. It was a quiet moment, a rare one, but one she had come to appreciate. She had been so focused on building and growing, but now, for the first time, she allowed herself to take a breath and appreciate the progress she had made. The phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Mr. Bennett, the investor who had helped her secure the initial funding to expand the company. "Maya," he said, "I just wanted to check in and see how things were going. I have to say, I'm impressed. You've done something incredible here." Maya smiled, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I couldn't have done it without the support of the team and the people who believed in this vision." "Well, your leadership is undeniable," he continued. "And I think it's time we talk about the next step. I have another opportunity for you. A chance to take this company to the next level." Maya's heart raced. Another opportunity? She had built so much already, but if there was more to do, she was ready. "I'm listening," she replied, her voice steady. Over the next few days, Maya met with Mr. Bennett